In this training, we're going to continue our dive into automations and workflows. And up to this point, we've built SMS-based keyword workflows, which are very common that a lot of people use. But we want to move on now to an even more common type of workflow. And we're going to do a couple of these. But the first one we're going to do is how do we start to organize and capture information as well as begin our process of communicating and working with the information that we have in our system when someone fills out a form. And this could happen as a form that's been directly sent, which with our forms inside of the platform, you can definitely send direct forms and they'll look clean and they'll look good. But it can also work as a form that's been filled out when you've built a funnel or a website and you've embedded or added that form element onto your funnel or website that you built inside the platform. And so we've already got a form that we're going to use, and we're going to talk about as though we were creating a course, and it's a free course that people can opt into. And so we have a form that we're going to use. We didn't create a funnel for this. We're just simply going to create a form, and we used a really basic form. It looks something like this. And you'll see here on our form that we invite them to join this awesome free course. They have to give us their first name, their last name, their phone, their email, and we ask one this or that type of question, yes or no question. So in this one, we're asking, are you already a member of any of our other courses? Now, if you need to understand forms, go into our forms training, whether you're a next level subscriber or one of our standard subscribers, and you can get those trainings in your course library or in our community under the learning tab. And so this is the form that a person's going to fill out. Okay, it's really simple. And what we want this to do is automatically create a text message and an email that responds to them and says, don't worry, here's the link to get our course. Now, this is not going to be an automation on granting course access. We will do that in future trainings, but this is simply how do we manage when someone updates us with their information and requests a specific item. This could be a free lead magnet. This could, in our case, it's a course. This could be anything that you choose. How do we go about the process of giving them the information they're asking for? Okay. And so we're going to jump right back into Social Connector here, and we're going to create a new workflow. So we're on automation. We're going to click create workflow. We're going to start from scratch. And we're going to call this, for our purposes, we're going to call this our free course opt-in. Okay. And we're going to save our workflow because we always like to save the workflow before we move. And now we have to ask the question, what is the trigger? Now, this is a trigger that the contact has taken. So they have taken some sort of action, and we are now going to do something. So if they're taking an action, we're going to scroll through and look at our events because those are the actions that can be taken. And in this situation, we'll see that they submitted a form. And you'll see that we can say form submitted. It could have been a survey that was submitted. It could have been a quiz that was submitted, but we're going to do form submitted because that's the form that we have. So when I tell you these things, because I want you to understand that the process we're following here could be very similar if it were a survey. It could be very similar if it was a quiz. So by learning this one thing, you're actually learning about 3 triggers at once. So we're going to click form submitted. And just like always, we remember that we work from big to small. And so if I were to save this trigger, this workflow would automatically start for any form that anyone submits inside of my system. And we obviously don't want that. We want it to be for our course form. So what are we going to do? We're going to name our workflow, which again has no impact other than keeping us organized. And so we're going to call this our free course form. And then what's our next step? We need to filter it. So this always helps me to think about what I need to do. I obviously need to filter this down to the free course. So I'm going to select add filters. And then I'm going to select, these are my 2 options, and I'm going to click add form is, and then I'm going to select course form example. Okay. And now I'm going to save my trigger And this trigger is now ready to go. What do we always do when we create a new trigger or any major action? We should always save it, because by saving it, you're updating the workflow. And some of our triggers have actions that when you're doing the filtering of actions, they're directly impacted by the trigger. And so we want to make sure we always save before we move on to our actions. So now that we've created a trigger, which is our form being submitted, now we want to ask, what are the actions we want to take? I'm always going to recommend that you add a tag to anyone who opts into something, because it helps us stay organized. It doesn't have to be a unique tag. It could be the same tag that you do for lots of things. So we know this is a free course. And what does that tell me? That tells me this is a person who isn't buying from me. They're just free. And so we're going to assume that this makes them a lead. My goal is to sell them a paid course down the road. And so I'm going to click the plus sign, and I'm going to add a new action. The first action I'm going to add is a tag. So I'm going to go to contact, because this is going to directly impact the contact who's coming in because they submitted the form. And we're going to update their information. And how are we going to update their information? We're going to add a contact tag. So I'm going to select add contact tag. And I'm going to do warm lead, because they're now a warm lead. And I'm going to find the warm lead tag and select it. And remember, I can always do more things, but I'm just doing warm lead here. Okay. Click save the action. And then I'm going to click save. Now I want you to know I'm going to show you another revision. So this training is going to go a little bit longer, but I want to show you the most basic way you can do this. But then we'll continue. Then what do I want to do after they have sent me their form? They said, I want this course. Well, I need to send them an email that gives them all the information about getting into the course. I want you to understand that in this training, we are not going to build the course itself. Okay, and we're not going to build the email that gives them access to the course. That's a completely different automation. We're just going to do this as an imaginary, because you could do this as anything. You could send them a link to whatever file you're going to use. You could send them whatever freebie or item you're giving them. You would send them a link. If you were doing a course, there's an entire way that you can actually grant access to that course, and then you'll have to create another workflow to give them entrance into that course through your client portal. We're not going to do that here, but we're just going to create an imaginary email. So I'm going to click the plus sign, and we're going to now send an action. Now I want you to know, I've been showing you by going through and showing you, here's our communication, send an email. But if I knew I wanted to send an email, I can come up here to search actions, and I could just type in email. And you'll see that anything that has the word mail in it here, voice email, or email in it, excuse me, is going to show up. So I'm going to click send email. And just like always, we're going to do the welcome to the course. We're going to name our action, and we're going to put our from name. We'll just do social connector, and our email is going to be info@socialconnector.ai. And then we're going to type our email. So welcome, here's your free course. And from here, we're going to scroll down, and we're going to do our basic thing that we do with any email. Hi. And we're going to do first name. I'm going to click first name. Now you notice you can see these brackets here. I always like to let you know, I could have just typed this myself. As you get to know all the different custom values, you'll see how you could do this yourself, and this would work. Here's how you access the course. Okay. And that's awesome. Then we're going to click save the action. You'll write your whole email there, or use a template if you've already got an email. Click save that action. And now we have our email. And then we're going to do one more thing. We're going to do a text message. So I just type in SMS. Now I can send a text message. I do want to show you this really quick. Again, we want all these trainings to keep a little bit of extra information. You notice how I do SMS? You can do manual action SMS. What this will do is inside of either the app or your contact section, you'll see an option called manual actions. And this would be something that it's not going to send automatically for you, but it will generate the text and then it'll ask you to send it out manually. And so that's sometimes you don't want things to go out automatically, but you want them to be ready to go. That's what this will do. So it wouldn't actually automatically send. It would just be in your list of waiting manual actions that you want to do. But we want to do this automatically. So we're going to send and say, hey, we'll do first name, contact first name. Excited to have you in the free course. I just sent you details on how to access. Now, are you starting to see, as we go through these various trainings that we've created, are you starting to see there's a pattern? This is why I say to you, once you start to learn the basics, you can do these with lots of triggers. When it comes to communication-based workflows, it's going to be similar. A trigger, a tag, and then a communication. Now, if you remember from our form, so this is all you would have to do. You could put a wait step, which we've already taught you how to do. You could put a wait step and you could say, let's wait for 1 hour, send another message, wait for 1 day. You could do all those things, right? However, let's just say you understand that. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it like this. But if you remember from my training here, or excuse me, from my sample work form, we have a question. Are you already a member of our other courses, of any of our other courses? Yes or no? And that's because in this training, I want to show you one of my favorite actions, and we're actually going to make some changes. Okay? So let's ask this question. Let's find out if they were already a member. And if they are a member of other courses, maybe we want to send some different information. Maybe we don't want to add a tag. Maybe we want to don't want to add a warm lead tag. Maybe we want to add a hot lead tag because they're already using some of our courses. So we're going to add a new action up here at the top. Okay, and that action is going to be what we call, it's an internal action. So if I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see we have a lot of internal actions. These are internal to the workflow. So they can do lots of things inside the workflow. But the very first one that you see is an if-else action. This is one of my most favorite. You'll see that wait is right below it because we use these the most common of all the internal actions. An if-else uses conditional logic, meaning if something is true, then do it. And if it's not true, do something else. And so we're going to create an if-else action here. So I'm going to select if-else. And now you're going to see we have this scenario that we're going to create. And we're going to ask some questions. And I don't want you to be confused by this. It's actually very, very simple. And we're going to ask the question, is this person an existing course user, right? Because we have it right here. Are you already a member of any of our courses? Yes or no? So we're going to ask that question of the workflow. And how will we know? Because that question, that yes or no question, has been added as a custom field to our contact. So we're going to ask, already a member, already a course member. Okay, so if they're already a course member, we're going to create a branch. You'll see this happen physically. And so how will we know? Well, we'll know because they said yes. So we're going to click this here. This is where we're setting the rules for our conditional logic. If this exists, I want you to go down this path here. If it doesn't, we'll go down a different path. So I'm going to click contact details because this is all about the contact. Is the custom field for them a yes? Contact details. We're going to scroll down, keep on scrolling down here where there's all these different things, right? There's so many of them. Well, I have custom fields here, and one of them is existing member, which is the actual field name that I created when I created this custom field. So I'm going to click existing member is yes, because that was their answer. So if they said yes, it's going to go down this branch. Or else it'll move to the next branch that I create. However, I don't need a next branch because the only other option is no. Either they are or they aren't. And so since it's no, we won't create a branch. We're going to say not an existing member because it moves from top to bottom. So it starts here and asks, is this a yes? If the person says no, then it moves over to or goes down, says, what about this? Well, this means none of the above conditions are met. So this isn't true. So do this instead. So we'll say not an existing member. Now I'm going to save the action. And here you'll see we have our condition and we ask the question, are they already an existing member? Now notice what it did, because I did this later and I did this on purpose. All of our items are now sitting on this left-hand side, but these are actually items for people that are not existing members. So this is, if their existing member says yes, go this way. If it doesn't, go this way. So I need to move all of this information from here over to here. Let me show you how we do that. I'm just going to click the three dots that are next to my adding the warm tag lead. I'm going to click these three dots. When I click these three dots, you'll see I have some actions. I can add notes, I can copy, I can move, or I can delete. I'm going to select move because I want to move all of these items from here to here. So it's like move. I'm going to click move all actions from here. I'm going to move them by just selecting now the button that says move here. And just like that, you'll see everything moves over. We wanted to show you how the conditions work, as well as these fun little tips that allow you to make changes so you don't worry when you've made a mistake or want to change something. Now we're going to add warm lead to the non-existing members, but we're going to add hot lead to the existing members. So I'm going to add a new tag, or let me show you one more tip. I'm going to click the three dots here. I'm going to click copy, but this time I'm not going to copy all actions. I'm going to copy just this action. Copy that action. Click here. And now I'm going to change this by selecting the copied action. It's not been moved, it's just copied. And we're going to add a new tag, hot lead. I'm going to delete the warm lead, and I'm going to add hot lead as my tag. Because if they're doing more than one of my free courses, they're a hot lead. You can think of all the ways you would do this. Now I'm going to click save, and I'm going to click save again. Now, that's maybe the only thing that matters to me. And the final thing I'm going to show you how to do, and I know this has been a little bit of a longer training, but when you're working in workflows, we sometimes take a little bit extra time to show you how to do them. The final thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, do I want to copy this email? What if all I wanted to do was make a difference between the hot lead and the warm lead, and I wanted these emails to stay the same? I could go through the process of copying these back, but then if I make a change to this one, I have to make a change to the one I copied. Whereas, what if I just told the contact who is flowing through this workflow, he or she comes to hot lead, what if I tell them I just want them to go to here afterwards? This is another internal action that you're going to learn. So I'm going to click on the add action button. I'm going to scroll down through all of my various actions, and I'm going to look in the internal actions because that affects what goes on inside the workflow. And I'm going to click go to. So I'm going to select go to, and we're going to say go to email 1. And I'm going to click save action. And now watch, you'll notice all of these things start to blink in green. This means any one of these I can click on. See how it says click to go to destination. And I'm going to select email. So I'm going to click it. And now you'll see we have this great new line that says, as soon as you're done with this, go here. So in this quick 20 minutes, you have learned how to create a new trigger with a form and filter it down, how to create a condition that is impacted, in this example, by a person's contact details, just one of the custom fields that you have, or any field can work this way. And you've learned how to copy and move various actions, as well as to create a go-to that controls where a person lands after they've finished one of the tasks you want. We're going to continue working in these in our next training, but this one was power-packed, full of information, and it should give you a lot of tools to start working your workflows.